Director Kleptos stood before the assembled press corps, all 7 of his legs trembling with what he hoped looked like excitement rather than the soul-crushing terror it actually was. His antennae twitched as he gestured dramatically toward the massive reinforced habitat behind him. Esteemed members of the Galactic Press Syndicate, he chittered, his translator box rendering his nervousness into 17 different languages simultaneously. Today marks a historic moment for the Xenozoological Institute of Proxima 7. Today, we unveil our most ambitious exhibit yet. A genuine, unaltered specimen from Earth. A human. The crowd gasped. Several reporters activated their personal defense shields. Kleptos continued, mandibles clicking with forced enthusiasm. As you know, humans hail from a Class 12 death world. They are persistence predators, capable of tracking prey for days without rest. They consume toxins for recreation. Their planet is 70% dihydrogen monoxide, and they swim in it. For fun, behind the supposedly one-way observation glass which cost more than Kleptos's last 3 annual budgets combined, the human in question was performing what appeared to be some kind of ritualistic combat preparation. He stood on one leg, arms extended, breathing deeply with his eyes closed. "Behold," Kleptos whispered dramatically, "the apex predator in its natural meditative state, preparing for the hunt." Greg Patterson, accountant from Columbus, Ohio, was actually just trying to remember if yoga was supposed to hurt this much. Downward Dog had definitely not felt this uncomfortable in the YouTube tutorial. Also, he was pretty sure his cat, Mr. Whiskers, was out of food by now, which was concerning considering he'd been gone for what felt like 3 weeks but was apparently, according to his abductors, 4 days in Earth time. Time dilation was weird. He opened one eye and caught his reflection in the glass, still wearing the clothes he'd taken the trash out in. Sweatpants with a hole in the knee, a t-shirt that said, "I'm not arguing, I'm just explaining why I'm right," and one sock. They'd taken his shoes for some reason. Probably thought they were weapons. "Note the casual display of dominance," Kleptos was saying outside. "The human wears damaged garments to signal it has survived combat. The cryptic text on its chest covering is likely a war cry in its native tongue." Greg finished his attempt at yoga and shuffled over to the food dispenser they'd installed. It had taken him 2 days to figure out the alien interface, but he'd eventually programmed it to make something approximating a turkey sandwich. The bread was purple and tasted like cardboard mixed with optimism, but it was food. Behind him, a dozen armed guards stood at attention, weapons trained on the habitat. Each was equipped with enough firepower to level a small moon. Their orders were clear. If the human breached containment, they were to evacuate the planet and call for orbital strikes. Greg hummed, "Don't Stop Believin'," while adding what he hoped was mustard to his sandwich. The yellow squeeze bottle could have been anything, really. But a man's gotta take risks. "The creature is preparing to feed," Kleptos announced, his voice dropping to a horrified whisper. "Notice how it processes its food before consumption. Tool use. Advanced problem-solving. Signs of terrifying intelligence." One reporter, a gaseous being whose name translated roughly to "concerned fog," burbled a question. "Director Kleptos, is it true your insurance premiums increased by 4,000% when you acquired this specimen?" Kleptos's antennae drooped. "That's not relevant to today's." "And is it also true," another reporter pressed, "that you've had to evacuate 3 city blocks as a safety precaution?" "Look," Kleptos clicked defensively, his carapace flushing an embarrassed shade of purple. "The Galactic Xenozoological Institute has been struggling financially. Attendance is down. Nobody wants to see another methane-breathing slug or a standard silicon-based crystalline entity anymore. But a human? A real live human? This exhibit will save us. This is revolutionary. This is—" Greg sneezed. Every guard's weapon powered up with a synchronized whine. 2 reporters fainted. Concerned fog dispersed entirely in panic. "Hold your fire," bellowed Warrant Officer Tumbrel, the head of security, all 4 of his muscular arms raised. His scales had gone from their usual green to a deep, alarmed crimson. "It's just performing a respiratory expulsion. Completely normal for mammals. Stand down." Greg grabbed a napkin. Well, what passed for a napkin in this place? More like a sheet of rubbery material, and wiped his nose, completely unaware he'd nearly caused an interstellar incident. Kleptos laughed weakly at the press corps. "As you can see, we have everything under control. The human is contained, comfortable, and completely secure. What could possibly go wrong?" In the back of the crowd, a small human child tugged on her father's sleeve and pointed at the habitat with enormous, curious eyes. "Daddy," 3-year-old Emma Thompson said, Is that a person? Warrant Officer Tumbrel stood at the head of the conference table, all four arms crossed in what he considered his most intimidating posture. His tablet displayed a rotating hologram of a human skeleton, each bone labeled with threat assessments in angry red text. "Listen up, people," he growled, his translator rendering his voice with the gravitas of a military documentary narrator. "I don't care if Director Kleptos thinks this is a tourist attraction. I'm treating this like the containment of a weapons-grade biological hazard, because that's exactly what it is." The security team sat ramrod straight. Most of them had been hired just for this assignment. The hazard pay was excellent. The life insurance premiums were astronomical. Tumbrel tapped his claws on the table, and the hologram shifted to show a human in motion. Humans are persistence predators. You know what that means? It means they don't give up. Ever. They will chase prey until it literally dies from exhaustion. Their ancestors hunted animals to death by just following them. For hours. Sometimes days. A young guard whose name badge read Plixon raised a tentacle nervously. "Sir, the human in containment hasn't shown any signs of aggression. It mostly just sits around and makes those sandwich things." "That's what it wants you to think," Tumbrel roared, slamming one hand on the table. The hologram changed to show human teeth. "Look at these. Look at them. Flat teeth for grinding plant matter. Sharp teeth for tearing flesh. They eat both. They're not specialized hunters or herbivores. They're opportunistic omnivores. Know what that means in practical terms? It means they'll eat literally anything if they're hungry enough." Through the observation window, Greg was visible attempting to do a crossword puzzle he'd drawn on the wall with what appeared to be sandwich condiment. He was stuck on 7 down. "Furthermore," Tumbrel continued, pulling up another slide, "humans have a recreational relationship with poison. This species seeks out capsaicin, a chemical weapon evolved by plants specifically to not be eaten, and they consume it for pleasure. They have entire competitive events to see who can tolerate the most pain from food." Pain from food. The team shifted uncomfortably. "Their planet," Tumbrel said, his voice dropping to an ominous rumble, "has weather. Real weather. Frozen water falls from the sky. Electrical storms with enough power to incinerate most of you happen regularly. And they just go outside anyway. They've invented games to play in these death conditions. One involves hitting a small ball with a stick during active thunderstorms." "That's golf, sir," offered a translator specialist named Bleep. "I've read the cultural files." "I don't care what it's called," Tumbrel snapped. "It's insanity. Their entire species operates on a baseline level of reckless behavior that would get any rational being institutionalized." He pulled up the next slide, a chart showing human problem-solving capabilities. "And here's the real nightmare fuel. They're smart. Tool users. Abstract thinkers. They've got this thing called spite where they'll do something completely irrational just to prove a point. They've been known to pursue revenge across decades." Decades. Greg sneezed again in his habitat and said "bless me" to himself quietly. He missed having people around to say it for him. Every guard in the room tensed. "Respiratory expulsion," Tumbrel noted clinically. "Completely involuntary. Can project infectious agents up to 8 meters. Which brings me to my next point. Their immune systems are horrifying. They coexist with billions of microorganisms. Billions. Living on and inside them at all times. Most of those microorganisms would be lethal to half the species in this facility." Plixon's tentacle shot up again. "Sir, question. If humans are so dangerous, why does the one in containment seem so harmless? It just does those stretching rituals and makes food, and sometimes it makes repetitive sounds with its mouth that our analysts say might be singing." Tumbrel's scales rippled with frustration. "Because it's adapted. It's studying us. Learning our patterns. Humans are ambush predators when they need to be. For all we know, it's lulling us into a false sense of security before it strikes. Or," Bleep suggested quietly, "maybe it's just bored and lonely?" The entire room turned to stare at Bleep. "Lonely?" Tumbrel's voice could have cut through hull plating. "You think the apex predator of a Class 12 death world gets lonely?" "Well," Bleep fidgeted with their tablet. "Humans are social creatures according to the xenoanthropology reports. They form pack bonds. They require regular social interaction for psychological health. That one's been alone for 4 days with nothing but guards pointing weapons at it. Maybe it's just irrelevant," Tumbrel interrupted. "Our job isn't to make friends with the Death World monster. Our job is to make sure it stays contained and nobody gets killed. Now, emergency protocols. If the primary containment fails, we initiate Code Vermilion. If Code Vermilion fails, we evacuate to the backup facility." If that fails, we've got orbital defense platforms authorized to glass this entire continent. Seems excessive, sir, Plixin muttered. Excessive? Tumbrel pulled up footage of human history. This species achieved spaceflight by strapping themselves to controlled explosions. They've survived multiple extinction-level events on their own planet. They've got records of individuals fighting off megafauna with primitive tools. One of their planet's most popular sayings translates to, "Hold my fermented beverage and observe this." Does that sound like a species we should underestimate? The room fell silent. In his habitat, Greg finally figured out 7 down. Aardvark, he said to himself, carefully writing it on the wall with mustard. Should have been obvious. He wished he had his phone, or a book, or literally anything to do. 4 days of this was driving him absolutely insane. He'd already reorganized his sock drawer well, the corner where he kept his one sock 3 times. All right, Tumbrel concluded, all 4 arms spreading wide. You've got your assignments. You've got your protocols. Remember, professional distance at all times. No interaction unless absolutely necessary. The human is not your friend. It's not a pet. It's the most dangerous thing in this facility, and possibly on this planet. Dismissed. The guards filed out, appropriately terrified. Through the glass, Greg laid down on the floor and stared at the ceiling, wondering if Mr. Whiskers had figured out how to open the kibble bag yet. Probably not. That cat was adorable but dumb as a box of rocks. He sighed. This was going to be a long imprisonment. The grand opening exceeded Kleptos' wildest dreams and worst nightmares simultaneously. Thousands of aliens packed the viewing corridors, pressing against the reinforced barriers with a mixture of terror and fascination. Kleptos watched the ticket counter with glee as credits poured in. They'd already made back half the insurance premiums. Behold, announced the automated tour guide in 47 languages. The human, native to the Sol system's 3rd planet. Observe its casual dominance of its environment. Note the relaxed posture indicating supreme confidence in its apex predator status. Greg was lying on his back juggling 3 of the purple bread rolls. He'd gotten pretty good at it. Entertainment options were limited. A family of gelatinous blob creatures oozed closer to the glass. Their children's eye stalks extended in horrified wonder. "Papa, is it true they eat other animals?" One burbled. "Don't make eye contact, sweetling," Papa Blob whispered. Predators interpret that as a challenge. Greg caught the bread rolls, sat up, and waved cheerfully at the crowd. It seemed polite. The corridor erupted in screams. Aliens scattered in every direction. Parents grabbed their offspring. Someone activated an emergency alarm by accident. 2 tourists trampled a merchandise cart in their panic, sending stuffed cute human plushies flying everywhere. The plushies had been deliberately designed to look less threatening, bigger eyes, smaller teeth. They still scared people. "Remain calm," Tumbrel's voice boomed over the intercom. "The human is secured. The wave gesture is a non-aggressive social behavior. Repeat, do not panic." This, naturally, made everyone panic more. Kleptos rushed to the viewing area, his legs clicking frantically on the floor. "Everything's fine, valued guests. The containment is working perfectly. Please continue enjoying your sweet nebulas." Is that a human child? He'd spotted them near the back of the crowd. A family of 3 humans making their way through the sea of fleeing aliens like salmon swimming upstream. Russell Thompson, attaché to the human diplomatic mission, his wife Jennifer, and their daughter Emma, who'd just turned 3 last month. Emma's eyes were locked on Greg with the laser focus only a toddler can achieve when they've spotted something interesting. "Person!" she shrieked with pure joy, pointing at the habitat. The crowd parted like Kleptos had just announced plague quarantine. A nearby crystalline observer actually cracked from stress. "There's 2 of them? 2-0? 4. Technically," Russell said tiredly, adjusting Emma on his hip. She was already squirming to get down. "We're harmless, really. Just here for the exhibit like everyone else." "Harmless?" squeaked a bird-like alien, backing away so fast it tripped over its own tail feathers. "You brought a juvenile? Juvenile predators are the most dangerous. They haven't learned restraint yet." Jennifer sighed the sigh of every parent who's ever been judged in public. She's 3. The scariest thing about her is the tantrums. As if on cue, Emma began the pre-tantrum wind-up that all parents recognize. The deep breath, the trembling lower lip, the gathering storm of toddler fury. "Want to see the person?" she announced with the certainty of someone who's never been told no in her entire 3 years of existence. Actually, she'd been told no plenty of times. She just had selective hearing. Greg, seeing another actual human being for the first time in days, stood up and walked toward the glass. His heart was pounding. Real people. People who spoke English. People who knew what Earth was. Code red, someone shouted. The Predator is approaching the barrier. Tumbril materialized with a security team, all weapons trained on Greg, who was now just standing at the glass with his hand raised in an awkward wave. Emma waved back enthusiastically. Hi, person! Emma, sweetie. He can't hear you through the glass. Jennifer started. But Emma had already activated maximum toddler volume. Hi! Hi, person! I'm Emma. I'm 3. That's this many. She held up 4 fingers because fine motor skills are hard. Greg's eyes were getting suspiciously wet. He mouthed hi Emma through the glass. Kleptos felt his antennae drooping. This was it. This was how his career ended. Not with a containment breach, but with whatever was about to happen when you got multiple humans in proximity to each other. The xenoanthropology reports had been unclear on whether humans formed instant pack bonds or immediately established dominance hierarchies through ritual combat. Emma pressed her face against the barrier, leaving a sticky handprint. Daddy, can I pet the human? Russell closed his eyes. Jennifer pinched the bridge of her nose. Kleptos began stress-molting on the spot. And Tumbril, seasoned military officer who'd served in 3 galactic conflicts, seriously considered whether orbital bombardment might be the simplest solution to this situation. Absolutely not, Kleptos chittered, all 7 legs planted firmly in bureaucratic resistance. Zoo Regulation 47-B clearly states no direct contact between exhibits and visitors. Insurance liability alone would— Pet the human, please, Emma repeated, using the tone that had successfully acquired 3 desserts before dinner last week. Russell shifted his daughter to his other hip. Emma, honey, that's not how this works. He's not an animal. He's a person, like you and me. I know, Emma said, with the exasperated patience of someone explaining something incredibly obvious. That's why I want to say hi properly. You shake hands with persons. Greg had moved as close to the glass as possible, practically vibrating with the desperate energy of someone who'd been in solitary confinement. He pressed both hands against the barrier. His mouth formed words. Please. Anyone. Just 5 minutes. Tumbril's scales had gone through 3 different stress colors in the last 30 seconds. Director, if we allow 2 humans in proximity, we have no data on what happens. They could form a pack. They could coordinate an escape attempt. They could engage in— He consulted his datapad. Fist bumping, which our analysts believe may be some kind of power transfer ritual. It's literally just touching knuckles together, Jennifer said flatly. It's friendly. That's what they want us to think, Tumbril muttered. Emma's lower lip began its ominous trembling. The pre-tantrum sequence was initiating. T-minus 60 seconds to full meltdown. Sweetie, Russell tried, switching to full diplomatic mode. How about we go see the nice methane slugs instead? They're very— No slugs, person. The crystalline entities are really— Person. T-minus 40 seconds. Kleptos watched his career flash before his eyes. On one claw, allowing human contact could result in containment breach, legal liability, and possible planetary evacuation. On the other claw, a human child was about to detonate in his facility, and he'd read the reports about human juvenile vocal capabilities. One had apparently shattered crystal glassware on a colony station last year, just by expressing displeasure about bedtime. Perhaps, wheezed an elderly Plutonian slug who'd been watching the drama unfold. A supervised meeting under controlled conditions? Controlled? Tumbril's scales went full crimson. With humans? There's no such thing. T-minus 20 seconds. Emma's face was reddening. Her fists were clenching. Greg had now written please in mustard on his side of the glass in letters 2 feet tall. All right. Kleptos clicked in defeat. But we do this by the book. Full hazmat protocols. Medical teams on standby. Emergency evacuation routes cleared. Signed waivers from both parties acknowledging the risks of human-to-human contact. We're the same species, Russell said. We don't need waivers to— Waivers or no meeting. Russell looked at his wife. Jennifer looked at Emma, whose mouth was opening for the opening salvo of what promised to be a legendary tantrum. They looked at Greg, who'd pressed his forehead against the glass in what could only be described as desperate longing. Fine, Russell sighed. Where do we sign? Tumbril pulled up a datapad with a document that was clearly 400 pages long. Initial here, and here. Sign here. Thumbprint here. This section acknowledges you understand humans are classified as extreme danger. This section waives all liability if the encounter results in death, dismemberment, or psychological trauma. This section confirms you're doing this of your own free will and not under duress from the juvenile. Emma, tantrum averted, beamed. I'm gonna make a friend. That's what I'm afraid of, Tumbrel muttered, already coordinating with his security team. All right, people. Full tactical deployment. Containment foam ready. Stun weapons charged. Evacuation protocols active. And somebody get me a shot of whatever humans drink to calm their nerves. That would be alcohol, Jennifer offered helpfully. Your species consumes poison for stress relief? You have no idea, Russell said, still signing forms. What followed was the most elaborate diplomatic incident in the history of the Galactic Xenozoological Institute. Tumbrel assembled a tactical response team of 12 guards, all equipped with enough firepower to stop a rampaging battle mech. A medical unit set up a field hospital in the corridor. 3 different news crews caught wind of the situation and showed up with cameras. Kleptos tried to ban them, then realized the publicity would be incredible, then tried to charge them admission, then got distracted by the liability paperwork. I need hazmat suits for all 3 humans, Tumbrel barked into his communicator. Full containment protocol. Air filtration. Radiation shielding. The works. We're meeting another human, Russell said slowly. Not visiting a nuclear reactor. Standard procedure for Class 12 Death World organism interaction, Tumbrel replied, not looking up from his tactical display. Your species exhales carbon dioxide. Do you have any idea how corrosive that is to 17% of known sentient species? Emma, sitting on the floor, was entertaining herself by making faces at the crowd that had regathered at a safe distance. Every time she smiled, someone flinched. When she giggled, a group of tourists activated their emergency teleport beacons. Jennifer had her phone out, texting her friends at the diplomatic mission. You will not believe what we're dealing with right now. Inside the habitat, Greg had been informed of the plan through the intercom system. He'd immediately started crying, which caused a brief panic until the xenopsychology consultant explained that humans leak salt water from their eyes when experiencing strong emotions, not just distress. Greg didn't care. He was going to talk to real people. He might even get a hug. He'd give anything for a hug right now. All right, Thompson family, Tumbrel announced, holding up 3 bulky suits that looked like they belonged in a deep space mining operation. Suit up. You've got 15 minutes of approved contact time. These are ridiculous, Russell said, examining a suit that had clearly been designed for someone with 4 arms and tentacles. How is Emma supposed to? We had to special order the juvenile-sized suit from the bioweapons division, Tumbrel said proudly. Arrived this morning via emergency courier. Emma's suit was bright yellow with reinforced joints and what appeared to be a built-in tracking beacon. She looked like a very small, very confused astronaut. I look funny, she announced. You look very safe, Tumbrel corrected. Now, ground rules. No sudden movements, no aggressive vocalizations, no exchange of biological materials. He means no hugging, Jennifer translated. Emma's face fell. But persons hug. Not today, sweetie. The human in containment has been briefed on the same rules, Tumbrel continued, though his tone suggested he had zero faith in Greg's compliance. You'll meet in the transition chamber. Neutral territory. 5 guards inside, 7 outside. Medical team on standby. News crews capturing everything for posterity and potential evidence in the inevitable inquiry. Russell finished sealing his helmet. This is insane. We're humans. We've been living on this station for 6 months. We shop at the market. We eat at restaurants. Nobody treats us like biological weapons. You're registered humans, Tumbrel explained. Diplomatic immunity. Background checks. Monitoring protocols. He pointed at Greg through the glass, is an unregistered human, acquired through questionable channels. No documentation. No psychological evaluation. For all we know, he could be one of those humans we've heard about. What humans? Jennifer asked warily. The Florida ones. Russell and Jennifer exchanged a look. He's from Ohio, Russell said, having read the intake documentation. Different subspecies. Mostly harmless. There are subspecies? Kleptos wailed from somewhere behind a pile of liability forms. Emma waddled toward the transition chamber door in her oversized suit, determined and unstoppable. Greg was already visible through the interior window, similarly suited up, bouncing slightly on his feet with nervous energy. The 2 guards at the door looked to Tumbrel. Tumbrel looked at his tactical display. The tactical display showed everything was as ready as it would ever be for first contact between 2 humans in a controlled environment. This is a terrible idea, he muttered. Yep, Russell agreed. We're doing it anyway? Yep, humans. Tumbrel sighed, all 4 arms raised in defeat. Fine. Open the door. And may whatever deities exist across the galaxy have mercy on us all. The door hissed open with dramatic pneumatic pressure. Emma toddled through first, because toddlers have no concept of fear or appropriate caution. Russell and Jennifer followed, trying to project calm parental energy while internally screaming. Greg stood on the other side, visibly shaking. For a moment, nobody moved. The galaxy held its breath. Then Emma, with the social grace that only small children possess, waved her chunky yellow glove and said, "Hi, I'm Emma. You look sad. Do you want my dinosaur?" She held up a slightly sticky plastic stegosaurus that had been in her pocket. Greg looked at the dinosaur, looked at Emma, looked at Russell and Jennifer, and completely lost it. "Oh my God, a dinosaur," he sobbed through his helmet speaker. "That's the nicest thing anyone's done for me in days. Yes. Yes. I absolutely want your dinosaur. Thank you. Thank you so much." Every alien watching had the same thought. This is their apex predator behavior? Tumbrel updated his tactical assessment. Threat level unclear. Situation developing. Possible emotional warfare tactics in play. Kleptos updated his marketing plan. Sell dinosaur toys in the gift shop. And Emma, blissfully unaware she'd just triggered the most confusing intelligence briefing the Galactic Security Council would receive all year, beamed with pride. "You're welcome. We're friends now." The most anticlimactic first contact in galactic history unfolded over the next 14 minutes. Greg, still clutching the sticky stegosaurus like it was made of solid gold, knelt down to Emma's eye level. "What's your dinosaur's name?" "Stompy," Emma declared. "He eats trees, but he's nice." "Stompy is a great name," Greg said seriously, "because you don't mock a 3-year-old's creative choices. I'll take very good care of him." Russell cleared his throat. "So, Greg, right? How exactly did you end up here?" "Took the trash out on a Tuesday night. Saw a weird light. Thought it was a drone. Next thing I know, I'm in a spaceship being poked with instruments and scanned by things that looked like sentient pool noodles." Greg gestured around the transition chamber. "They've been very polite about the whole kidnapping thing. Honestly. The food's weird but edible. I just really, really miss other people." "Understandable," Jennifer said. "We're on the diplomatic station about 40 clicks from here. We could probably file a complaint with the Galactic Human Rights Commission, get you processed as a protected species. Maybe arrange transport back to Earth." "Wait," Greg interrupted. "Back to Earth? Like actual Earth? That's possible?" "Yeah, there's commercial flights every few weeks now. Takes about 4 months with the new drives, but..." Greg made a sound that the guards outside immediately classified as a distress call and raised their weapons. It was actually just crying again. Happy crying. The kind of crying that happens when someone's been holding it together through something awful and finally sees the finish line. Emma patted his leg sympathetically. "It's okay. Sometimes I cry too. Especially when Mommy says no cookies." "Emma, not the time," Jennifer muttered. "What do you do on Earth?" Russell asked, trying to keep things conversational while his daughter established diplomatic relations. "Accounting. Small firm in Columbus. Taxes, mostly. Real exciting stuff." Greg laughed wetly. "My biggest worry used to be quarterly reports. Now I'm apparently the galaxy's scariest predator. Life comes at you fast." "Do you have chicken nuggets here?" Emma asked, cutting through to the important questions. "No," Greg said tragically. "I'd commit minor crimes for chicken nuggets right now." "We have chicken nuggets at home," Emma announced. "You can come have some." Outside the chamber, Kleptos' antennae shot straight up. "Absolutely not. The human is Institute property. Legally acquired through..." "Through what?" Russell asked through the external speaker, his diplomatic voice taking on an edge that suggested someone was about to have a very bad day. "Through abduction? Pretty sure the Galactic Convention on Sentient Rights has some opinions about that." Kleptos realized he'd made a critical error. Several critical errors. Possibly career-ending errors. Tumbrel, reading the room, quietly began updating his resume. Inside the chamber, Greg was explaining to Emma what accountants do. Emma was explaining her opinions on broccoli, which were strongly negative. They'd discovered a mutual love of cartoons, though Greg's references were about 30 years out of date, and Emma had no idea who the Rugrats were. "Do you have a family?" Jennifer asked gently. "Cat," Greg said. "Mr. Whiskers. He's probably staging a revolution in my apartment by now. Maybe a sister in Denver. But we don't really talk much. Parents passed a few years back. So, not much waiting for me except confused neighbors and an angry cat." "Well," Russell said, glancing at his wife, who nodded. "We can probably help with the legal situation. Get you classified as a diplomatic rescue. Fast-track citizenship on the station if you want. Or Earth transport. Whatever you prefer. The Human Remains Institute property," Kleptos insisted through the intercom. But his voice had lost all conviction. "Actually," called out one of the news crew, "according to Galactic Law subsection 9, any sentient being held without consent has the right to appeal for release. And since humans are registered as a Tier 1 sentient species following the 2318 Proxima Accords, this gentleman has full legal standing to file for immediate release." Kleptos felt his entire administrative career crumbling. The exhibit, the ticket sales, the merchandise, all of it vanishing because he'd accidentally committed what was technically kidnapping in 47 star systems. "Time's up," Tumbril announced, partly because protocol demanded it, and partly because he could see where this was heading and wanted plausible deniability. Emma hugged Greg's leg before anyone could stop her. Full contact. Direct physical affection between two humans. The medical team surged forward. Scanners went crazy. Alarms blared. Nothing happened. Greg patted Emma's helmet awkwardly. "Thanks, kid. You made my whole week." "You can visit all the time," Emma declared. "And we'll have nuggets and watch cartoons, and I'll show you my other dinosaurs. I have 7. "That's a lot of dinosaurs," Greg agreed. Russell and Jennifer ushered Emma back through the door, but the damage was done. The crowd had seen everything. The news crews had broadcast it live. Across 17 different news networks, billions of viewers had just watched the galaxy's most feared predator bond with a juvenile of its species over chicken nuggets and plastic toys. The Galactic Predator database would need significant revisions. 3 days later, Greg moved into the diplomatic quarter as a protected refugee with paperwork pending. The Xenozoological Institute settled out of court for an undisclosed sum, which Greg immediately used to hire a lawyer to retrieve Mr. Whiskers. Kleptos was demoted to managing the methane slug pavilion. Tumbril got a commendation for successfully managing first contact with 0 casualties, which he felt was generous considering he'd nearly called an orbital strike. Emma visited Greg every Tuesday and Thursday. They watched cartoons together. Greg taught her basic math, which Russell and Jennifer appreciated. Emma taught Greg the theme songs to shows he'd never heard of, which they appreciated less at 6 a.m. The exhibit remained, but now it featured a live video feed of Greg doing completely mundane human things in his apartment. Paying bills, doing yoga, cooking dinner, playing with Mr. Whiskers, who'd arrived via express cargo and was deeply confused about space travel. Ticket sales tripled. Turns out everyone wanted to see the legendary human domestic behavior protocol. Watching Greg fold laundry while singing off-key became the station's hottest attraction. The gift shop sold out of Stompy the dinosaur replicas in 4 hours. And somewhere in the Galactic Security Council, an intelligence officer updated the human threat assessment file with a new note. Apex predator status confirmed. Primary weapons, persistence, pack bonding, and the ability to befriend literally anything. Approach with caution, and possibly chicken nuggets. Greg, oblivious to his new status as a galactic celebrity, was just happy to have people to talk to, a cat to pet, and the promise of Tuesday visits from a 3-year-old who thought he was the coolest person in the entire universe, which, when you think about it, is pretty much all any human really wants.